Hello, this is Natasha Willow reading to you from Anna Karenina. This is Part 5, Chapter 6. When the ceremony of plighting troth was over, the verger spread before the lectern in the middle of the church a piece of pink silk cloth. The choir sang a complicated and elaborate song in which the bass and the tenor sang responses to one another, and the priest, turning around, pointed the bridal pair to the pink silk mat. Though both had heard a great deal about the saying that the one who steps first on the mat will be the head of the house, neither Levin nor Kitty were capable of thinking it as they took a few steps toward it. They did not hear the loud remarks and the disputes that followed, some maintaining that he had stepped on it first, others that both had stepped on it together. After the customary questions whether they desired to enter upon matrimony, and whether they were pledged to anyone else, their answers, which sounded so strange to themselves, the second part of the ceremony began. Kitty listened to the words of the prayer, trying to make out their meaning, but she could not. The feeling of triumph and radiant happiness flooded her soul more and more as the ceremony went on, and deprived her of all powers of concentration. They prayed. Endow them with continence and fruitfulness, and vouchsafe that their hearts may rejoice looking upon their sons and daughters. They alluded to God's creation of the wife from Adam's rib. And for this cause a man shall leave his father and mother, and cleave unto his wife, and the two shall be one flesh. That this is the great mystery. They prayed that God would make them fruitful, and bless them like Isaac and Rebekah, Joseph, Moses and Zipporah, and that they might look upon their children's children. It's all beautiful, thought Kitty, catching the words, just as it should be, and a smile of happiness, unconsciously reflected in everyone who looked at her, beamed upon her radiant face. Put it entirely on, the voices were heard urging when the priest had put the wedding crowns, and Sherbatsky, his hand shaking in its three-button glove, held the crown high above her head. Put it on, she whispered, smiling. Levin looked around and was struck by the joyful radiance on her face, and unconsciously her feeling infected him. He, too, like her, felt glad and happy. They entered and enjoyed hearing the epistle read, and the roll of the senior deacon's voice at the last verse, awaited with such impatience by the outsiders. They enjoyed drinking out of the shallow cup of warm red wine and water, and they were still more pleased when the priest, flinging back his stole and asking them to take both their hands in his, led them around the lectern to the accompaniment of bass voices chanting, "Rejoice, O Isaiah." His friends, supporting the crowns and entangled in the bride's train, were smiling too, and they were happy without knowing why. They were at the moment lagging behind. At the next, stumbling over the bridal pairs, the priest came to a halt. The spark of joy kindled in Kitty seemed to have infected everyone in the church. It seemed to Levin that the priest and the deacon too wanted to smile, just as he did. Taking the crowns off their heads, the priest read the last prayer and congratulated the young people. Levin looked at Kitty, and he had never seen her look as she did. She was charming, with new radiance of happiness in her face. Levin longed to say something to her, but he did not know whether it was all over yet. The priest got him out of this difficulty. He smiled kindly and said, "Kiss your wife, and you kiss your husband," and he took the candles out of their hands. Levin kissed her smiling lips with timid care, gave her his arm, and with a new strange sense of closeness walked out of the church. He could not believe that it was true. It was only when their surprised and timid eyes met that he believed in it, because he felt that they were one. After supper that same night, the couple left for the country.